welcome to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. Happy Friday. It is January 12th, heading into a eventful, important weekend for Rutgers men's basketball. Travels to East Lansing, Michigan to face Michigan State in a pivotal game for both teams. Michigan State coming off a loss Thursday night at Illinois by 3 points. They're now 1-4 in the Big Ten. Rutgers 1-3 after Tuesday's win over Indiana. We talked a lot about that victory. Can Rutgers build off it? Can Michigan State, which has been very down, then up, now down again this season, on paper, very talented. KenPom right now has Michigan State projected to win by 12 points. The spread is not out as of yet, but 71-59 is the KenPom projection. Michigan State right now 17th on KenPom. Rutgers is 86th. We can look at how these two teams match up against each other, but the bottom line is, on paper, Michigan State has a ton of talent and is on paper supposed to be a really good team, but that hasn't happened yet this year. They do have a very difficult schedule, but they've been very inconsistent. Rutgers has never won at Michigan State before. The last time these two teams met, Rutgers beat them in Madison Square Garden. Well, Mag goes down in that game. So we know that the fate of Rutgers has changed quite a bit since the last time these two teams met. Rutgers was in second place in the Big Ten after that win. Tom Izzo called them, I can't remember if he called them the best team or second best team, whatever. He praised them. And a lot has changed since then. So I think the biggest key for me, there's a lot of, I'll go into stats and all that, but I think Rutgers has to bring physicality and urgency to this game, especially on the defensive end. They have to be locked in and connected on the defensive end right away. Michigan State, they're a screening team. They move the ball well and they screen a lot. So ball reversals, how is Rutgers going to defend the screens and the pen downs? Are they going to fight through it? Are they going to switch? How are they going to defend Tyson Walker, Michigan State's best player, 6'1" guard? Are they going to try to match up with speed, with Derek Simpson and Jermichael Davis? Are they going to go with size and hope that Austin Williams can keep up? It's going to be very interesting to see how they defend him. We know Pikiell likes to take out the best player on the other team. He also likes to mix and match defensive matchups, send multiple guys at their best player. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they defend him. I feel like if Austin Williams can show he can keep Tyson Walker in front of him, that could work out to be a pretty interesting matchup, and one in which I think, he did a pretty good job against Bruce Thornton and Tony Perkins. Different types of players, though. Bigger, stronger, slower. Tyson Walker is very agile, very crafty. Not that those guys aren't crafty, but he's just a different type of player. He's, been really good from three this year, close to 40%. So he's the key guy. Michigan State has really high assist rate as a team. You have Walker, AJ Hoggard, who I can't believe he's only 6'4". I feel like he's so much bigger on the court than that. But he's number 30 assist rate in the country. Tyson Walker's at 20%, top 500. And then you have the freshman Trey Holloman, who's been really good for them. So they move the ball really well. When they, get shut off and slow down and try to beat their man one-on-one, that's when Michigan State's gotten some problems. They don't get a lot of consistent scoring production inside. Obviously, Cliff and Mag need to defend the rim well. They need to rebound. Rutgers as a team has to rebound. Michigan State is nothing special in terms of a rebounding team, just statistically so far. Offensive rebounding wise, Rutgers is 102nd nationally. Michigan State offensive rebounding rate 105th. So they match up kind of even on that end. In terms of defending rebounds, defensive rebounds, Michigan State is 168th and Rutgers is 272nd. So they haven't been nearly as good at that, but they've been a lot better in the last three games, which is a really encouraging sign. Defensively in the Big Ten, they've been limiting offensive rebounds. They've been limiting second chance points. I mean, a big key against Indiana was they outscored them 12-1 in second chance points. I think it was 19-8 in offensive rebounds. Their last 3 Big Ten games, they've had around a plus 10 rebounding margin. So it's going to take a team effort, in every way. But rebounding for sure, they have to rebound as a team. That's going to be key. I think that, in terms of Michigan State, they want you to shoot a lot of threes. Opponents are shooting over 4% in terms of attempts from the floor or 3-point attempts. They're not shooting particularly well. Opponents are only shooting 29.9%, so 30% from 3. That's 40th best defensively nationally. So Rutgers, I mean, listen, they're one of the worst shooting teams in the country right now. They're the worst shooting team in the Big Ten, shooting 30. Were they shooting from the floor in Big Ten play? 39%, I think. Let me see here. Yeah, they're shooting 39%, 39.5% from 2-point range. Jesus. 29.5% from 3-point. That's 12th. But 2-point range, they're less than 40% Big Ten play. That's a problem. So can they finish at the rim? Can they hit threes? If there's ever a game that Rutgers can get hot from 3, this would be the game. Michigan State is going to dare them to shoot threes. So if Rutgers wants to kind of, punch Michigan State in the mouth, figuratively, not Xavier Johnson style, which wasn't in the mouth, it was in the nether regions, but that's another story. They need to hit some threes in this game. And they obviously have to always finish at the rim, right? But I think what's interesting, too, in this matchup, as I pull it back up, in terms of Rutgers, Michigan State. So in conference play, right, Michigan State's played 5 games. They're 6th in offensive efficiency, and they're 12th in defensive efficiency. Rutgers the opposite. They're last in offensive efficiency. They're 3rd in defensive efficiency. In terms of going back to the matchup, Michigan State does not force a ton of steals. They're about average. And they, in terms of turning it over, they're about average. Rutgers has been pretty good about forcing steals. They're 80th. Indiana had 8 turnovers. Excuse me. They're 14th in turnover rate. They're 80th in steal rate. They do a really good job of forcing non-steal turnovers. So just, mental mistakes, charges, things like that. But in terms of turnover rate, they're 14th nationally. Michigan State is 72nd offensive turnover rate. So they do a relatively good job of keeping the ball. Their bigs are bad, though. So Sissoko turns it over like crazy. Are they going to double him, risk leaving open a shooter? Probably not. But if, Cliff can force some turnovers on him, that would be big. And then in terms of Rutgers having the ball, they're 112th in offensive turnover rate. But, yeah, Michigan State just average 141st. So Rutgers has to protect the basketball. They have to attack the glass. They have to get some easy baskets in this game. They have to hit some open threes. They're going to get open threes. And I think they just have to bring more physicality to Michigan State. They have to bring more energy. It's a noon game. So is that 11 a.m.? I can't remember if Michigan is Eastern or Central. But, they have 2 extra days of rest. Now, the flip side of that is that Tom Izzo, Hall of Fame coach Tom Izzo, is probably some level of furious, irate, whatever you want to call it, after Michigan State now losing 1-4 in Big Ten play. I really wanted them to win on Thursday night because they've been inconsistent, and I thought coming into a high in this game would have maybe benefited Rutgers, but they're going to be angry. But I think it could go one of 2 ways. Their team could be super locked in. I mean, it could get ugly in this game. If Michigan State is executes at a high level and they're a good shooting team, they're 35% from 3. Again, Akins and Walker are your guys you got to contain. Holloman's been pretty good too, unlimited shots. And then 2-point range, they're 54%. They're not great from the foul line. They're 70%, which is 230 nationally. Rutgers just right under 67%, which is 305. 45% from 2, under 29% from 3. I know people get mad at me when I say this, but I think things are going to balance out a little bit shooting wise, and I think Rutgers is due a really good shooting game, and we've seen them break out on the road in the past, just have a lights out shooting game, and pray to the basketball gods that it happens on Sunday, because if it does, and Rutgers brings it defensively, they could win. They could win. It's let's be honest. I mean, it's not likely, right? Michigan State is going to be, there'll be a double-digit favorite whenever the spread comes out. They're more talented, without a question. But this comes down to Rutgers' mentality. Can they build off that Indiana one? Did something click where, that grit of this program that we've seen be successful for so long, did that kind of click against Indiana, where they just out-muscled them, they out-toughed them? Can they continue that type of vibe going against the Spartans? That's going to be really critical in this game. And I think just setting the tone, and of course, you can't start the game 1-15 on the road. They've had real struggles on the road starting games. Wake Forest was a poor start. Ohio State was a poor start. Iowa was a poor start. Seton Hall was not. And they played their best game of the season. So I think they just have to play with purpose on the offensive end. They need to share the basketball. They're going to have to take threes in this game, but it's got to be within the flow of the offense. I think Austin Williams, we know, has brought a little extra just in terms of his confidence, his energy, his joy to the court. This team's been playing very tense, very tight, and that impacts shooting. So perhaps they go on the road, in a place they've never won. I mean, literally no one is expecting them to win this game. And like I said, I think this team just has to kind of take a deep breath, and I think they need to clear their heads, and winning helps that. And getting that win against Indiana, hopefully they can breathe a little easier. They're going back out on the road now. They don't look too far ahead. There's a brutal schedule ahead. You're home against Nebraska, who just beat number 1 Purdue. Then you're at Illinois, and then you have Purdue. The schedule after that opens up quite a bit. There's a lot of winnable games in February, a lot. But it's up to this team, up to the leaders, up to the coaching staff to keep this team together, to fight through all this adversity. Like it was talked about, they're getting healthier, Mag and Williams specifically. That's been a big impact. You saw that against Indiana. Both of them, both of them have played really well now for 2-3 games in a row. Can Rutgers continue to build off of that? I like the way Derek Simpson played against Indiana. He didn't shoot well, but I like the purpose he was playing with. Cliff is Cliff. Cliff's got to bring it defensively. They got to look for him in open space. He's better than Matty Sissoko. He's got to bring an intensity to this team. And, what can they get from behind the arc? Can Andre Hyatt have one of his unconscious games? Can they get Gavin Griffiths going? Gavin Griffiths is at the point now where he probably knows he's going to get one run. And it's what is he going to do in that one run to get more minutes in that game? So that's going to be big. I think Jamichael Davis is a little bit of an X factor here. I think he'd be disruptive defensively. He's given them a spark at times on offense. And then Noah Fernandes, he hasn't given them much since that Ohio State second half. So he's been very up and down. As a whole, this team's been inconsistent. But as we saw against Indiana, when they play as a team, when they get contributions from a lot of different players, of course, they're tougher to beat. I just want to look at my list here. In terms of how this game could go, I think, again, you're going to have to take some body blows from Michigan State probably early, but the pressure is going to be on Michigan State in this game. If Rutgers can go in with an underdog mentality and just battle, right? Just play hard, stick together, be smart, work them in the half court. Don't try to force things. Don't be tense. Michigan State has all the pressure on them in this game. If they lose this game and go 1-5 and 9-8, I mean, they're in serious trouble. And they have crazy expectations. They have Final Four expectations. This Rutgers team, if they made the NCAA tournament, it was going to be a success. right? And I know their backs are against the wall for that right now, but this is a chance to start climbing out of it. And it's really going to start in their defense, in terms of can they force Michigan State into poor shot selection. Rutgers really works teams in terms of the shot clock. That's the other thing on the offensive end. Rutgers can't allow Michigan State to get them into their offense late in the shot clock. They have to have some urgency. They have to be able to move in this game. They have to be careful also, because Michigan State is the type of team that they can speed you up before you can blink. So when Rutgers makes baskets, they can't admire their shots. They have to be locked in defensively no matter what the entire game. If they make threes, they got to get back. If they make shots near the rim, they got to get back, because Michigan State will get back down the court very quickly in a way that Rutgers hasn't really been able to do. So it's definitely contrast in styles. But I think if Rutgers, if they could force some turnovers and get out in transition, that would be a huge help. Any easy basket this team can get would be huge for them. Getting to the foul line, Rutgers has been pretty good at that. And Michigan State doesn't get to the foul line a ton. In terms of free throw attempts, in terms of free throw rate, they are getting there. Let's see. Yeah, Rutgers is getting there 37% of the time compared to field goal attempts. That's top 100 nationally. And then Michigan State, is not. They're only under 32%. They're like 210. So Rutgers done a really good job of defending without fouling. Michigan State isn't a team that gets to the line a ton. So how the whistle blows is huge in this game too. And I just want to see this team go out and fight and have a little fun. Like they need to lighten up. They need to just play. I think they're in their heads a little bit too much. I think they're worried about their shot a little bit too much. Go into a place where no one expects you to win and just battle and see what happens. And we'll talk after the game. Appreciate everyone listening and watching to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. Once again, hope you have a great weekend. And talk to you on Sunday after the game. The game's at noon. And I forgot if it was on BTN or not. Let me check real quick. Apologies for the delay. By the way, wrestling big weekend. They host Indiana on Friday night, and then they're at Purdue on Sunday. I'm going to have my guy Eric Vesper back early next week to recap. Let's see. They are on BTN at noon at the Breslin Center. We got Dave Revson and LaFonso Ellis. If you're of a certain age like me, you'll remember who he is. Notre Dame. And Andy Katz is going to be there. Maybe good vibes there. Maybe not. I don't know if he's driving the bus or not. But we'll see what happens. But this is an opportunity, and that's how you have to look at it. And talk to you Sunday after the game. Have a great weekend.